Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Matters Monday because art matters. Every Monday we go through and we color a page in the Neil Gaiman Art Matters coloring book. Well, it's not a coloring book, it's a reading book. And it is illustrated by Chris Riddell, who created and illustrated the 100 Hugs book we did last year. So yesterday's picture, or not yesterday, last week's picture, was this one here. And we did this one in ink tints. And it did bleed through a little bit, but that's okay because we'll work with the bleed through. So I'm going to put my page here and we're going to read this page and then we're going to color it. So it says, I believe that ideas do not have to be correct to exist. I believe you have every right to be perfectly certain that images of God or prophet or human that you revere to as sacred are undefiable, just as I have the right to be certain of the sacredness of speech and of the sanctity of the right to mock, comment, or argue, and to utter. So basically, in my the way I feel about that in my mind, that states that yes, you have that right to your religions, your beliefs, your gaieties. Um, but I also have my rights as well to speak out and that sort of thing. Whether I don't like your um, choice of religion or I don't believe in your choice of religion, I have the right to say or to, you know, converse with you in a respectful manner. All right, so we're going to color the book and we're going to color the flyer here. It says Charlie, or yeah, Charlie Hebdo, and we're going to color that up. I'm not feeling the greatest today, so I don't think I'm coming down with anything, but it's really kind of annoying. And we're going to color the book. Um, yeah, we're going to color the book black or gray, maybe. No, let's be bold. Let's be bold. Because in my brain, it's a possibility of a Bible and that sort of thing. When I was growing up, um, every year at school, they would give us a red Bible, and that's what I'm going to color it as. My mom has a white one, but sharpen this pencil up. So what the pencils that I'm going to be using are the the Cray Art colored pencils. Just because I don't want to use another wet medium on it, because I don't want it to bleed through on a picture that I've already colored. Otherwise, I would use a wet medium for it, but we've already used a wet medium and saw that it does bleed through, so I don't want to do that again. All right, so we're going to go into our close-up camera here, and I'm going to start off with Sangria, and we're going to do the edges of the book where the shadows are. And these pencils aren't too bad. They are very well pigmented. However, they do remind me of most black barrel type pencils. But they are quite nice. They work quite well. You can definitely put a good layer down quite quickly. Oh, Choo Choo has to say hello. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Today is Valentine's Day, so if you celebrate that, happy Valentine's Day. I hope that you have a fantastic day with your loved ones, whether it be your spouse, whether it be a friend, whether it just be your children, however you choose to celebrate it. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. So I turned off the light because it does seem to wash out the color a little bit, so you guys aren't getting a full spectrum of the color. I had the kitchen lights turned up, but for some reason it's not as bright in here as it usually is. It's a very, very dark, cloudy, rainy day, and it's probably why I don't feel well. Dark, cloudy days make my body ache a little. Makes me feel icky. I don't like feeling icky. Okay, so I'm going to go across the little ridges here as well. And I'm just going down through all of the areas that Chris has put in the shadow lines and the grooves. So if there's a groove, it's going to be darker than the rest of the areas. So the same with down the edges here. I'm going to turn the book a little bit just so I can get to it. Because it's a book and it's a fairly small book, the binding gets in the way, and I'm not going to take apart the book to fix it unless it starts falling apart, and then I'll have to take it apart. And then we're going to do down here at the bottom of the book as well, because the bottom cover is going to be red as well, obviously. But we're going to do that darker because it's under all the other pages. Same within here. And this part here. Okay, now we're going to go in with red, just straight red, and we're just going to go right over top of the dark, using that dark color as the shadow and building the color off of it. Trying to stay in the line, but there's a curve in the book there. Trying to stay in the lines and on the curve. Yeah. I'm going to move that back a little bit so you're not listening to my nose, because I do have a little bit of a sniffle too. I hate it when I wake up that way. It just ruins my whole day. Makes me crabby. I try not to be crabby, but some days I can be really crabby. And I'm sorry for everybody that has to deal with me on those days, because there are just some days I'm just nasty. Okay, and the under page is moved, so it's giving me a line. Let's see if we can blend that out. Got a piece of paper underneath it so that I can not transfer that other picture to the other side. So again, just going over it and building that color up. I'm not using a heavy hand. I'm going fairly lightly because this is not a coloring book. The paper in this book is close to newspaper quality. It reminds me a lot of the newspaper rolls that our art teacher used to bring in for us to do artwork on. Actually, now that I think about it, that's what it reminds me of. I think we've got a good layer of color there. I think it's looking pretty red. Now I'm going to go down the sides here and the back side here as well. Make sure that my little page is not moved. On the back side here, I'm going to do the whole thing the same way. And then we'll bring back the sangria and reestablish that shadow in areas that I feel that it's dulled down from the lighter pencil. And typically and normally, depending upon your hand and that sort of thing, most times you don't need to redo your shadow area. But sometimes the lighter color will dull it down a little bit, and you don't want that all the time. So sometimes it's just good to come back through with that darker color and give it a little bit more dark. All right, now we're going to come through with the sangria here. And we're just going to put a little bit more of that dark in there. Now you got to remember, once again, this is a very thin paper, so there is not a whole lot of tooth. So you have to be careful when you're putting down your initial layers. And that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't put down enough dark, is because the tooth of the page is very low, and if you press too hard, you can kill the tooth of the page and you won't get any other colors on it. Basically what you do is you end up flattening it underneath the color, and if you flatten it too much, the other colors will just glide right over top of the color that you flattened it with, and they won't stick to each other. If you let the paper show through a little bit, it gives something for that next color to grab hold of. If that makes any sense at all. That's my interpretation of it anyway. I want this area up here to be darker. On the book. And there's some areas down here that there's just lines. So I'm just going to fill those in. Like so. And then we'll take the lighter. And this time I'm going to completely avoid the dark area up to a point. And those little line areas, I'll go over that, but once again, I'm just putting very, very light layers, building that color up. You don't want to do a heavy hand on this book, because you won't be able to get any other colors built up on it. So if you're doing a light, dark, medium, make sure you do your first layers, a couple of layers really light, and then go in with a medium or a final layer to cover up your white spot, or a really gentle blender pencil to go over it if you find that you need to. Usually I will use my white pencil, especially in a book that I know isn't going to take the abuse that a blender pencil gives, because basically all it is moving the pigment around to smush down all of that white area, which is the paper showing through, which is the tooth of the paper. And you can do that with either your lightest color, with your white pencil, or with a blender pencil. Or a blender pen. Blender pens work as well, but not in this book. I would not suggest doing a blender pen in this book. It does break down the pencil, but it also makes it go through the page in this book. Alright, so there's a part of our book done. So now I want to use some gold. And I know there's one in here. Oh, I think it's this one. Nope, that's clay. There it is. And we're going to do the page of the book in gold. Once again, make sure that your other pages it goes right into the crease of the book, so I'm not too worried about that edge there. Take a little bit of this one here. So I'm going to use a little bit of rust on the edges here, just to give that gold a little bit of age. If you look at antique gold, there's a bit of a brown rust color that sits on its edges. Gives it definition. I guess I could have zoomed you in a little bit. Here, let's zoom you in a little bit so that you can actually see. I have you zoomed all the way out, so let's zoom it in a little bit so that you can actually see what I'm doing, not just the back of my hand. And then I don't have to have it twisted and turned so much. So there is our red book. We've done the gold foiling on the gold color on the edges of the pages. It's a nice red book. Now we're going to do this one here. So we're going to get our black, and so we're going to use off black, and then we're going to use maybe clay and honey for the pages. Alright, so let's start with our words here. I'm just darkening up the words. This one is Charlie. I'm not sure what those little things are down there. Okay, and then I'm going to take the darker color, which is clay, and give it a sharpen because it's a little blunt. And these are fairly light colors because I want it to look like paper. But we're going to give the shadows a little bit of definition here. Turn, yeah. There we go. And then we're going to do the different pages underneath. Like that. And then we're going to take, so that was clay, and then we're going to take honey. Yeah. We're going to take honey and we're just going to come in a little bit here. Give it that old kind of parchment kind of look. And we're going to take a little bit of blue. Which blue though? I think this one will work well. So we have Cerulean blue here. We're just going to put in a touch. On this area here that's supposed to be stuck down to the page. Because it's supposed to be a different color. It's a sticker. It's a sticker. Then we're going to take our dark red. We're going to outline this. Not quite sure what it is, but we'll outline it in red. And we'll color it in. We'll outline it with sangria and we'll color it in with some red. And we just put a little touch of the red on the edges here where it's curled. Back over it with our Cerulean, make it a little bit more purpley for those shadow areas. Those areas where there's a bit of a crease. And add a little bit more honey down here. Like I said, just making it kind of like a parchmenty type of paper. Like so. And then we're going to take our rust. And we're going to do the table here. And we're going to take a little bit of cinnamon as well. I'm just going to go over the whole thing. Because I am assuming that the book is sitting on the desk. Just going to move this so you can actually see what I'm doing. There you go. There you go. I'm just doing it very loosely, just filling in that area. Like so. Then we're going to take that rust again, and we're going to do our shadow. So we've got this shadow area here that is showing the factor that these are on a table. But then we have the shadow from the book that isn't quite shown there. So that's what we're going to put in. And then we're going to take our honey and we're just going to fill it all in, varnish it up, make it look like a wooden table. Like I said, this is a really thin paper, so be very careful, especially we're going over areas like if you used your Inktense like I did last week, the areas that I know that have seeped through, because I can see them, are areas that I'm a little bit gentler in, so that I'm not tearing the page, because the water would have changed the composition of the page. Alright, let's grab a little bit more of this. I'm going to go really deep right up against the book and then blend it out. I'm running out of tooth in certain areas because of the use of water on it, but that's okay. And then up against the book, really, really, really dark. And blend it out. Like that. And then we have the picture all done. So once again it says, I believe that ideas do not have to be correct to exist. I believe you have every right to be perfectly certain that images of God or prophet or human that you revere are sacred and undefiable. Just as I have the right to be certain of the sacredness of speech and of the sanctity of the right to mock, comment, to argue, and to utter. Once again, this is Art Matters by Neil Gaiman. I'm going to switch you over to the close-up counter. Not the close-up, the main camera. There we go. Like I said, I'm an off a day. So this was done by Neil Gaiman. The illustrations are done by Chris Riddell. Art matters because your imagination can change the world. And once again, there is our picture for today. And this is the picture that we did on last Friday or last Monday. God, what is going on with me and my words? This is the one that was done the Monday before. So that was done on January 17th. I haven't been putting the dates on these. I knew I was missing something. And this is one of the first ones we ever did. So this one was done on the 10th of January, the 17th of January, the 24th of January. This would have been at the end of January or the start of February, the middle of February, no, the start of February, the middle of February, and the next one will be this one here. Very, very, very strong information. Well, not even information. It's letting you know the entire this entire part of the book is letting you know that people may become offended by what you do. People may be offended by your words. People may be offended by the things you draw, may be offended by the things you color. And they have the right for that offense. If they want to be offended, that's their right. However, you have every right to put your imagination to paper, to put your imagination to your words, and to put your imagination into your art. And don't ever stop doing that. All right, guys, that is it for me for today. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this segment of Art Matters and Matters Monday. Um, I will, of course, see you tomorrow where we will be repairing the background for the Inktense bluebells that I did last week. Until then, again, thank you all very much for watching. Always remember to like, comment, and subscribe to any YouTube channel that you watch. It does help us out a lot in understanding what you want to see, what you don't want to see. Hitting that like or dislike button. Um, yeah, and finally, of course, always be kind to one another. Relax, color, and stay safe. Until next time, guys, bye bye for now.